Emily Green was 22 years old, full of energy and determination, with eyes that sparkled whenever she talked about animals. Ever since she was a child, she had been fascinated by the wild, not with toys or cartoons, but with the raw power and beauty of lions, gorillas, and the untamed creatures she saw in documentaries. That fascination turned into a passion, and that passion became a dream. To work closely with these incredible animals, to understand them, and maybe even help protect them. When she received the acceptance letter from Indirai Wildlife Sanctuary, it felt like everything had finally fallen into place. This wasn't just any internship. It was a chance to be part of something groundbreaking, a place where animals rescued from terrible situations were given a second chance at life. Emily was ready to face any challenge, no matter how dangerous or difficult, just to be there. She wasn't interested in the easy tasks or the glamorous spotlight. Instead, she volunteered for the toughest shifts, the lonely nights, the dirty work, all because she believed that's where real learning happens. Her commitment was total, her spirit unbreakable. But little did she know, her courage would soon be tested in ways she never imagined. That night began like any other. Emily arrived at the sanctuary just as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the vast enclosures. The air was thick with the scent of earth and wild grass, and the distant roars and calls of animals echoed through the cool evening. Her task was simple, a routine solo night watch shift. Most nights passed quietly, with Emily monitoring the animals from the observation tower, logging their behavior, and ensuring the security systems were intact. But this night was different. As the sky darkened, an unexpected storm rolled in, heavy clouds blotting out the stars. Suddenly, a flash of lightning lit up the sky, followed by a deafening crack of thunder. The sanctuary's power flickered, then went out completely. Emergency generators kicked in, but a malfunction left some doors and locks frozen in place. Communications went silent. Panic flickered behind Emily's calm exterior as she grabbed her flashlight and headed out to check the affected areas. While inspecting the maintenance corridors near the predator enclosures, she heard a strange noise, a metallic click followed by a heavy door sliding shut behind her. She spun around, heart pounding, to find the gate sealed tight. She was trapped. Between the roaring lion on one side and the pounding silverback gorilla on the other, Emily stood in a narrow cage designed as a buffer zone between the two dangerous animals. Both creatures were agitated by the storm, their restlessness amplified by the sudden darkness and the locked gates. With no radio and no immediate help, Emily realized the gravity of her situation. She was alone, caught between two of the sanctuary's most powerful and unpredictable residents, with no clear way out. Every instinct screamed for her to stay calm, to think fast, because panic could mean the difference between life and death. The tension in the cage was unbearable. On one side, Leo, the massive lion, prowled back and forth, his golden eyes glowing in the faint light. His deep growls rumbled through the metal bars as he swiped his massive paws, scraping the floor with sharp claws. The thunderstorm outside seemed to fuel his agitation, each lightning strike making him roar louder. On the other side, Kogo, the silverback gorilla, pounded the cage walls with terrifying strength. His chest heaved as he beat his fists, his guttural screams echoing in the confined space. The storm had unsettled him too, and the sudden darkness seemed to ignite his fury. Emily stood frozen, her breath shallow but controlled. She knew any sudden movement or loud noise could provoke a deadly charge from either beast. Her mind raced, recalling everything she'd learned during training, the behavior patterns, the warning signs, the ways to avoid triggering aggression. She reminded herself that fear was her enemy. Screaming or panicking might make the animals see her as a threat or prey. Instead, she focused on steadying her breathing and keeping her body as still as possible. But time was running out. The lion's roar grew closer, the vibrations shaking the cage. The gorilla's pounding intensified, metal groaning under the force. Emily's heart hammered in her chest, not just from fear, but from the desperate need to find a way out. She scanned the cage quickly and spotted a small vent panel in the corner, just large enough for her to squeeze through if she could manage it. But it was risky. Crawling through a tight space while two apex predators were just feet away was no simple feat. Still, with no other options, Emily knew she had to try. The question was, could she outsmart two of the most powerful animals on the planet and live to tell the tale? Emily's eyes darted around the cage, searching for anything she could use to her advantage. Her training kicked in. She remembered the behavioral patterns of both Leo and Kogo. The gorilla was highly reactive to sudden lights and loud noises, while the lion was easily distracted by movement. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her small flashlight. With trembling hands, she flicked it on and quickly directed the beam toward Kogo's face. The sudden flash caught the gorilla off guard, causing him to recoil slightly, his angry pounding slowing for a moment. Using that brief distraction, Emily grabbed her jacket from where it had slipped off during her struggle and threw it toward Leo's side of the cage. The lion's eyes locked onto the fluttering fabric, and instinctively, he shifted his focus away from her and began stalking the jacket like prey. Seizing the opportunity, Emily crawled toward the loose corner panel she had noticed earlier during her rounds. It was just wide enough for her to slip through if she could maneuver carefully. Heart pounding, she twisted and wiggled her way toward the small opening, every second counting. The gorilla's angry grunts grew louder as he started to recover, and Leo's low growls signaled his renewed interest. She had to move fast. With a final push, she managed to unlatch the panel just enough to slip her body through the narrow vent leading to the corridor beyond. Every nerve in her body screamed with tension as she crawled inch by inch through the confined space, the sounds of the furious animals still echoing behind her. She knew she was risking everything, but staying put was no longer an option. One breath at a time, she pushed forward, praying that this desperate plan would be enough to get her out alive. As Emily squeezed through the narrow vent, the tension behind her reached a breaking point. Kogo, the gorilla, let out a furious roar and charged toward the spot where she had disappeared. The cage rattled violently as he slammed his massive fists against the metal walls, trying to reach her. At the same time, Leo the lion reacted to the gorilla's rage. His roar echoed through the enclosure as he pounded the bars with thunderous force, the ground trembling beneath his weight. The two beasts, both fierce and unpredictable, were locked in their own primal battle of frustration and instinct. Emily's heart pounded as she crawled faster, every second feeling like an eternity. She could hear the grunts, the growls, the violent crashing, the very sound of survival itself. Her fingers scraped against the rough edges of the vent as she pushed herself forward, desperate to escape. Finally, the vent opened into a narrow corridor. With all her strength, Emily pulled herself free and slammed the emergency gate shut behind her. The heavy metal door clanged loudly just as Kogo reached the other side and crashed against it with all his might. She collapsed against the cold metal, gasping for breath but safe, at least for the moment. The sanctuary's backup team was still hours away, but Emily had done the impossible. Against all odds, she had escaped the cage between the lion and the gorilla. The backup team arrived sooner than expected, alerted by a motion sensor that had detected unusual activity near the predator enclosures. They found Emily shaken but unharmed, her clothes torn and face smudged with dirt, sitting just beyond the locked emergency gate. Her escape sparked immediate changes at the sanctuary. Safety protocols were overhauled, solo night shifts were banned, and emergency communication systems were upgraded to prevent anything like this from happening again. But for Emily, the experience became more than just a terrifying memory. It strengthened her resolve. Months later, she returned to Enderai, not as an intern, but as a trainer, teaching new recruits how to stay calm and think clearly in the face of danger. She never forgot the night she was trapped between two of nature's most powerful predators. It was a test of courage, quick thinking, and sheer willpower. A night that proved sometimes survival depends not on strength, but on the ability to stay calm when everything seems impossible.